Today I'm going to be showing you two really cool ways to create a cooler drop. So if you're ever running into a problem where you think you have a good idea, but it sounds a little too simple and you just want to create a cool way to create, I don't know, a little bit more excitement or I don't know, I think it just sounds more interesting to the ear if you use this reverse effect I'm about to show you. So the first thing you're going to need to do, the first way I'm going to be showing how is using an audio line. So if you have a synth line that's not audio only MIDI, go ahead and bounce that to audio, bring that audio in, and we can start messing around with reversing. I'm going to be importing, so I'm going to create a new track, an audio track, and I'm going to import a little bass line I created for this tutorial. Very simple, and as you'll hear in a second, it really needs a little spicing up, so I'll show you a cool way to do it. Here's what the bass line sounds like right now. Okay, so I do have a little bit of side chain on this bass line, and that's why you'll see that the first note is a little bit quieter than the second, but they are the same note. So what you're gonna need to do for this is take the note that you want to be reversing. In this case, I'm gonna be using the first note, and you're gonna want to cut around that note. So I'm cutting around the second one just because it is the same as this first one, but it's a bit louder. That's why I'm using it. But essentially, I'm going to be reversing into this first note. And you're going to want to create a second audio track so we can mess with this note. And I'm going to hold down my Option key on my keyboard and drag a second note down. There you go. That's a cool way to copy and paste. Now take this note and bring it all the way to the left because we're going to be wanting, or all the way to the right. I'm sorry, I should know my rights from lefts by this point. So take the note over here, and you're going to be wanting this note to be coming into the first note. So an easy way to do that is that you right click on the audio clip, go to the drop down menu and click reverse clips. Simple as that. Now what I also like to do is I like to fade into it. Oh, well, there goes my Twitter. All right, so grab this little dot on the left side and drag it towards the right, and you'll be fading the clip in, which essentially just makes it come in a diagonal slope. This affects the audio volume. All right, so let's take a listen to what that sounds like. You're going to now be hearing this reverse sound coming into this first sound. They're the same key, they're the same note, so you'll be creating a reverse effect. Let's take a listen. All right, so as you could hear at the end, it went romp bump instead of just bump bump. It went romp bump. I don't think that my acapella version's any better than the actual demo I just played you, but for those of you who might find that more amusing, there it was. Okay, so let's keep going on. Let's go to the second way that you guys can create this similar reverse effect, and this way is easy to work with on audio or MIDI. So this first way I just showed you is much easier with audio. Second way I'm showing you, you can do it on audio or MIDI. So let's mute this track for now. And I'm going to go to our bass line track. I'm going to right click on this audio track here on the left, and I'm going to click duplicate tracks and devices. That gives me an exact replica of this channel we had above here. All right, let's mute that first channel so we're only now messing with this duplicate. I'm going to want to use this note that we used before. If you're working with a MIDI track, basically I would just delete all the MIDI you don't want to have the reverse sound come from and leave just whatever note you want to reverse out of. So I'm going to delete all that and bring that to the front. Now let's go over to our racks and let's add a reverb. So I'm going to be inserting an RV7000 advanced reverb. Simple reverb. And let's start by bringing the dry wetness all the way to the left. We want that at 0. We're going to automate that later. We'll come back to that. Most important thing for this is that you want to have this reverb to have a very long decay. You want this reverb to go on and sound big. So drag your decay all the way to the right to 127. And then drop it down a little bit to the left to around 125. So you have a bit of a slope coming here on this reverb. We don't want any pre-delay, so make sure to bring the pre-delay to 0, which is over here. No mod, and let's bring that size up all the way to 39. Now, I do recommend EQing your reverbs. Any sound you're reverbing is obviously going to have a different set of frequencies. So not every EQ is going to work for every sound, but I'll just show you how I would EQ this particular sound. So I'm going to be switching down to the EQ menu here, and I'm going to be clicking EQ Enable, which allows me to use the EQ on this reverb. Now if I solo this, and I'll bring the wetness up so we can listen to it. Let's take a listen to what this sounds like before I EQ it. All right, so that was a lot of bass. So let's cut the bass, and I'm gonna bring the frequency around to a 200 hertz, and now I have a bit of a bass and low mid cut, but I do wanna bring out some of those highs. So I'm gonna go to around 4,000 hertz. Bring my Q up and wide, and let's bring that up maybe 5 dB. So now let's take a listen. Cool. Let's go back to our sequencer and I'll show you what's next. Oh, just kidding. Let's go back to that rack menu. Now we're gonna mess with this dry wetness. Right click on it when it's at 0 and click Edit Automation. And that will open up a new automation lane on your sequencer. So here's the sequencer, and let's create an automation for this reverb. I'm gonna create one as long as this entire loop we have, this 4-bar loop. Double click on your automation box that you just created, and let's set it at around 50%, which would be right at the middle. Now, all you're gonna need to do is solo whatever note that you're going to be reverbing, and make sure that you solo the reverb as well. And let's export that loop. So I'll call this bass stab reverse. Export. Cool. Make sure to unclick the solo, and let's go ahead and delete that stab. That also deleted the reverb that we created for that. And let's create a new audio track. Let's import that audio that we just created, which was bass stab reverse. And you'll see that we have it here. Now, the first step to doing this is that we want to cut out this first bit here, because this was just the note itself. We actually only want the reverb. So let's start by cutting out however much of that was the note itself, and just leave ourselves with this reverb to play with. The next step is going to be to reverse it, just like we did the others. So you're going to want to right click on your audio clip and reverse it. Now I'm going to be dragging this audio clip all the way so that it hits the side, so that this reverse is going to be coming into this first note over here. Now this reverse is way too long for me. You obviously could find a way to use long reverbs like this, but for this particular situation that I'm showing you, I like a short reverb. So I'm going to drag this so that it's a similar size to the reverb we had below with audio track 2. And I'm going to do the fade, which was done by dragging the little dot on the left towards the right. And we now have a fade. I'm going to bring up the level, maybe 4 dB, just so to make sure you can hear this. So now listen as you'll hear this. Here's just the reverb on its own. That's that reverse reverb. And now when you listen to it, you'll get a similar reverse effect, but different than that first way I showed you. And then you could even hear it with both. Maybe you choose to do both ways, have the audio reversed and the reverb reversed. And then you can start getting really creative and just bringing in reverbs in different places and maybe making them shorter or longer. Obviously that didn't sound very cool, but you get what I mean. You can really start playing around with those reverses and get some really cool effects. So I hope that this tutorial helps you out, guys. Really think outside the box with this. I use this technique on almost every track I've ever made, probably in the last couple years, especially using the reverbs and reversing those reverbs. Now, there are other ways that you can create this reverse effect, but I particularly like to use audio because you can see it. So I hope that this tutorial helped you guys out and helped you guys maybe get some new ideas for drops or what you want to do to your current drops. I'll be uploading new videos every Thursday from now on to this YouTube channel, so please subscribe, guys. and let me know what you guys want to learn.